Morning, everyone. Today I'm speaking with Gregory Spicer, Chief Executive of Exxon Global Systems Group, and we're talking about the youngest business division, ResPage, Property Management System. Welcome, Greg.
Thank you, Adam.
Greg, would you mind saying a bit more about ResPage, what it is, what it does?
Sure. Well, first of all, Arthur, thank you very much for having me here, and it's a pleasure to be here. And thank you for the opportunity of talking about ResPage, our residential property management system. I think the first thing to do is to put it into the context of what the problem is that it's solving. And as I attend a lot of industry events, it's apparent that there is a significant supply-demand imbalance in the UK, and that is in residential housing, and that affects market segments like student housing, as an example, retirement living, or later living as it's sometimes now called, co-living or house for multiple occupancy, and ultimately build to rent, which is a solution that provides a single building with leasing or tenancies right throughout the building instead of a mixture of build to sell and the like. So the problem of insufficient supply is resolved by a mixture of these residential market segments that are aiming to supply housing for a variety of different use cases. The second part of the problem is that there is a labour imbalance and a labour shortage of skills that would allow for the operations to run smoothly, to run the administration to run smoothly. You have, on top of that, a heavy migration flow, and this makes things slightly worse because inbound migration utilizes capacity which otherwise would go to, let's call it, normal local residential usage. So the mixture of these problems, a lack of skilled labor and a lack of supply, all produces the problem of difficult operations and difficulty to find a property, difficult to find a room. So what we have done is build a process automation system through software, which aims to reduce the workflow of businesses that are running residential properties. And the workflow is reduced to the staff because a lot of the processes are moved to the applicant or to the resident. And by doing so, the staff can concentrate on service delivery. And so the effect is to still have the personal touch and to have the ability of, that one-on-one service that people expect. But instead of having, administration workload burdening staff and increasing labour cost, we're able to remove the work and to, in a sense, relocate that work to the applicant and to the resident. So the software aims to manage all of the administration, the booking, the billing, service delivery oriented workflows, allowing the staff to be focused very much on personal service.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you. Thank you, Greg, for this overview of the software. So I have a few questions for you. So every entrepreneur, when they come to the center, they come with idea, or they're at the beginning of coming up with an idea. How did you come up with this product? Because I know it's fairly fresh product. I know you have a lot of houses and you have some big accounts already on the platform, and there's thousands and thousands of people using it, and you grow really fast. Where the idea came from?
So originally, we've spent 25 years in hotel property management systems, and as part of that, we supplied a system to a serviced residence group, which was about a decade of a global project which took us into long stay management. And that long stay management is quite different to the hotel sector, principally because you're dealing with a lease of usually a month at a time, 6 months at a time, instead of a room night or 2 or 3 room nights. What we were asked to do was to supply a booking engine for a new operator in Australia who was opening Australia's first large-scale build-to-rent apartment in Sydney. And they knew we had skill sets in customizing booking engines. So they came to us with a proposal to build a specialized booking engine module to allow them to lease up that building. And they had some ideas that they wanted there to be, for example, attribute-based pricing. And what that was about was, if there is a larger veranda or a better view or a higher floor or something closer to the lift, perhaps a bigger kitchen, they wanted those features to drive pricing so that rental was not simply a standard model, but rental was going to be driven by the different attributes of a specific apartment. And at the time, they couldn't quite get what they wanted from off-the-shelf products. They knew we were kind of a custom shop type company. And we agreed to build this for them. This project was the first module to be built within the overall platform, and it encouraged us to focus a lot more closely on the market segment of residential. And the next thing that happened was we were invited to a tender for a European student housing group. There were about 20 prospective suppliers for that tender, and we won it, and then were tasked to build out the rest of the solution for that European project, which saw us move to student housing in Poland, in Germany, in Denmark, and in Sweden. And that project, which was about 7,000 apartments for students, including sharing rooms and all the complexities of semester-based bookings, that project, in fact, gave us an accelerated growth. We finished that project recently, and we then pitched to a build-to-rent operator in Australia, in Melbourne. We were successful there. So we have about another 1,500 apartments that are going to be supplied with the same solution. So it's been a one project at a time startup, but the overall business that we have has experience in both booking engines, in property management, in point of sale, in business intelligence. So we knew what we wanted to do. We just needed the projects to provide the initiative.
Brilliant. I have two questions which strike me straight away. So when you have this organizations, it's like an enterprise clients.
Yep.
They all have individual needs for their software. And it's very much, a lot of it, it's like custom modules, right? So as a business to enterprise software venture, how do you balance all these requests from customers versus like a growth of the company and trajectory of the company?
That's a great question. Actually, the goals of the product are to provide a standardized solution, but it's built from projects that are customer-driven features and functions. So the way it works is that we have a backbone that we call the basic system that we know has to have example 200 features. An example of that is monthly rent roll. And within monthly rent roll, you might have many different business rule variations. Should this be automated? Should it be manually triggered? How is it audited? Who gets to approve it? So each of these features has influence by the customer project, and then we parameterize those features into the standard package so that any future customer can choose one way or another to configure the system. And we end up with a large repertoire of business rules that can be then used across multiple market segments. So ultimately, we're building a package, but we commence that package by individual projects that themselves provide us the use cases. And then we interpret those use cases and try to standardize them in a way that will allow other customers to benefit from them.
Oh, brilliant. Thank you. So I have a few more questions.
Okay.
I mean, one of the questions, it's like, why Salford? Like, why Manchester? What's the reason to set Res Page at this location?
Well, we're very enthusiastic about Manchester. Not only is it a world-famous location, obviously football's put Manchester on the map globally, so it's a famous location, number one. Number two, one of our most senior managers happens to live here. He's a local boy, and he's been enthusiastically pitching Salford. He lives in Salford and has done, I think, for all his life. So he's been enthusiastically pitching this location. And so we relocated here from the Midlands, and we had staff in London, we had staff in the Midlands. Now this is our only UK office. We're also convinced that the development in Manchester is significant, not only in residential, but also in general. It's a significant hotspot for economic growth. So we like a number of things about it. We like the fact that it's in the middle of the UK. It's got an airport. It can be, for example, you can fly directly from Singapore to Manchester now. So It's a truly international hub. It's a hub for Europe. It's in the middle of the UK. It's got the best football, in the world. It's also got quite low costs. So we find that on a relative cost basis, it's more affordable than just about anywhere that we've looked at. Certainly much lower cost than London or Edinburgh, even lower cost than Birmingham area where we were for many years. And so look, a combination of costs, a combination of talent, a combination of international connections, the fact that it's in a hotspot for economic growth, all of those things together, and I guess our staff were telling us this was a great place. So we listened to them, and we set up shop here. So we've moved the global headquarters of our point of sale division to here, and now we're moving our global headquarters for ResPage to here.
And the first question that comes to my mind, can you tell me more about the numbers? How big is your business?
Well, with this new product, ResPage Property Management is our smallest business unit. It's our most recent startup, if you like. It's an internal startup. So it's really only 2 or 3 years old inside our business. So it's, let's say, among our 3 business units, it's our smallest, but it's the fastest growing. So the other 2 business units have been in the company for more than 20 years. And this business is only about 3 years old from scratch. So we've gone from 0 to about 7,000 live apartments with another 1,500 in the pipeline in the space of, let's say, 2 years since the product itself reached a point where it could be installed. Now, that's an incredible growth. And we compare that to the growth of our other products, which are typically much slower. They're also enterprise products, but they just don't have that trajectory. And part of this is really the growth of residential housing in these market segments. So that in itself is a growing area, the economic factor. And the other part is we have a competitive advantage in this market segment. If we compare, for example, the number of players in residential property management systems, it's still significant, but it's nothing like the number in the hotel market segment, where you might have 200 players in the same space. Here we might have 20 players in the same space. So we feel we have relative competitive advantage. We are applying very interesting use cases that we borrow from hotels, we borrow from service residents, and we build into residential. And so we think we've got a way to sustain our competitive advantage in this market segment.
Brilliant. Thank you. I have 2 last questions for you, Greg. Sure. So in our community, like Salford or like Greater Manchester, there is a lot of like ventures who try to target this business to enterprise kind of markets. And you are a very accomplished entrepreneur in that space. Like, what advice would you have for like an early stage ventures who have a product they're like early on, like really like early on, like literally just launched the product, and they want to target enterprises? Like, how do you get this type of accounts over the line to work with you?
Excuse me. This is a very difficult question to explain an answer to, but it goes something like this. You can be a one-man band and you can win very large deals if you know how. I can give you a couple of examples. I was the only person in Singapore in our company. I moved there in 2006, not a single customer. I won the largest global deal in the serviced apartment market within a year of going there. And that was a 30,000 apartment deal. And we had no structure. We had no service department at all. We only had me and a laptop. I was working out of the spare room that would normally be used by a maid in Singapore. And that's because we really couldn't afford a full-time office at that point. So I won the largest deal, really, of the largest operator of the then serviced apartments. Now, how did I do that? It was I started by giving free lectures at the hotel management colleges back then, and one of the deans of the hotel management colleges quite liked the guest lecture and referred me to this particular organisation that put out a tender, and I knew how to respond to that tender, so I knew my subject. And it's the quality of the response to formal RFPs that I think differentiates ourselves, because we understand the use cases that are being asked in those RFPs. So typically we win our business not by numbers, not by being the biggest, we're usually the smallest, but by the quality of the answers we give in RFPs. And because we know our subject so well, they see the difference between what I would call a conventional salesman answering an RFP and a subject matter expert answering an RFP. Second example, when we won our European student housing, was exactly the same. We filled in an RFP, and having qualified even without a product, because we were missing a significant portion of the product when we in fact completed that RFP, and they could see that we understood the subject matter. So these days, enterprises are looking for subject matter experts that can not only talk about vision, but they can deliver a version of that vision. And if they can clearly articulate, and I mean precisely articulate, what that version looks like, then they have credibility. And typically, something happens in the process of an RFP where they're evaluating the quality of the people they're talking to. It's usually a 2-3 month process. And in the end, they build a relationship, and they can see that you have credibility. They can see that your subject is a fit or not a fit. And if you win, they've already formed this working partnership with you. So it takes the process of knowledge transfer, credibility building, honesty, because if you don't have something, you've got to tell people that you don't have it, but you've got to explain how you'll build it, when you'll build it, and make sure you deliver it. So all of those things give people comfort. And our story has been the story of winning improbable deals for the last 25 years. And this latest business unit, which is the ResPage Property Management, is exactly the same. We really shouldn't be competing because we haven't got a long history in residential, but we have won some of the largest deals in the market segments that we've pitched for, and we continue to do that. So, I often look back and wonder how I did win a piece of business, and it's common. There's some common things, but the central to it is subject matter expertise. And if you've got that, usually the entrepreneur does have that subject matter expertise. So they're able to differentiate because they know more than what I would call a conventional salesperson operating in a company at mid-management level. So leaving our sales at top level is a differentiator. And the rest is really chemistry. So the product consists of a booking and leasing engine, a property management operations module, which staff use, a resident service portal, which is the place that a resident would go to apply, to lease, and to pay, for example, their rent roll. And finally, we're building an app, and the app will be used to gain access to the building, to rooms, to conference rooms, and also to book external services. For example, book a dog walker or a fitness instructor or attend a yoga class or RSVP to an event that the residential building is holding. So these main modules, as well as what we call our enterprise configuration module, comprise the entire system.
Okay, brilliant. Is there anything else, Greg, you'd like to add about the product? I'm just thinking, like, if I go and let's say I rent a property, right? And they're like in Greater Manchester, more recently, it's more and more common to have those buildings, residential buildings, where you have like a few floors of entertainment floors, open spaces, like a barbecue. Then you might have like a cinema room.
Right. So it's a hybrid use building. Yeah, look, increasingly that is the design of modern community spaces. And, we find with our background in point of sale, which is a food and beverage management system, You can imagine a situation where you've got residential in the same building as a restaurant or a coffee shop. You've got room service or a QR code for ordering purposes. You might have a kiosk near a grab and go environment. So these are true hybrid buildings that borrow ideas from hotels. For example, a grab and go. They might borrow an idea from a menu, an external menu ordering solution, and all of these things add up to service that people are used to. So having a flexible approach to transaction processing and to order entry and to applications and leasing, our particular standpoint is putting all of these things together, and so we're well suited for these types of hybrid buildings.
Brilliant. And it seems to me like, with your background in hotels and now in residential property, when you mix those two things with point of sale systems and then residential management app and platform, it's a really unique offering. Is there anyone else doing that?
No, but it's what people expect. I mean, it's just if you look at the way that service is done in society, whether it's Uber Eats, whether it's a lobby in a hotel, people are expecting a kind of service delivery. And our motto, in fact, has been, since the very beginning, delivering service through technology. That is our company motto. And we've always found a way of transaction processing and both short stay as well as long stay accommodation and residential leasing to be blended. And when you blend those things, you get something unique.
Brilliant. Okay. I really loved all these answers. So brilliant. That is such an amazing insights, Greg. I think I think that's pretty much could be it for now. So we're going to cut this off here.
Okay.
Yeah. But thank you, Greg. It's been amazing having you.
Thank you very much, Arthur. We're looking forward to big things in Salford and being part of this innovation forum for quite some time.
Brilliant. Thank you, Greg.